Welcome everyone to Free Range. As a bit of housekeeping, this show used to be called Open Season, and Open Season has been retired. And when I decided that I wanted to start the kinds of interviews that Open Season was doing under a different name, Free Range is the name, and here we are back doing it. I'm Sal Spinosa. Many of you know me. And I have with me today Stacy LeBaron. How are you, Stacy?
Excellent.
Stacy is associated with an operation called Pawsitive Pantry. Before we get into a lot of the details about that, can you just start by explaining to us what Pawsitive Pantry is all about?
Sure. So Pawsitive Pantry is an organization that's really working hard to raise funds to provide families with food, pet food, so that they're not faced with the fact that, or of having to surrender their pets if they can't afford the food. Food has gotten very expensive in the last year and a half or so with the cost, with inflation, economic stress families are feeling, and really shortages. I mean, there's incredible shortages, especially in cat food. You can find these shortages at the grocery store, and you can't get access to dry cat food in many cases. The cost of dry cat food and dog food has pretty much doubled over the last 12 to 18 months. And so, we think of our pets as family. Sal, I know you have dogs.
I do.
And I think you would think of them as your family.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you came upon a financial hardship, you'd want to be able to keep your dogs. And that's what we're here for. So if somebody is some family, some individuals having a hard time being able to afford cat litter and cat and dog food, we're here to be able to provide that. So we do it through a variety of different ways. We cover all of Vermont and we cover all of Massachusetts, but Pawsitive Pantry started right here in the Valley. It was the dream child of Jen Bennett, who is our founder, still on our board of directors, and started really focusing here on the Valley in 2009, back when our last recession was happening, to ensure that families wouldn't have to feel the pressure of having to surrender their pet because they couldn't afford taking care of them. And we've expanded tremendously to cover the whole state as well as Massachusetts.
So Pawsitive Pantry is about food for dogs and cats.
Correct.
It's sort of like the human food shelf, only for dogs and cats. Is that a fair comparison?
It's a perfect comparison, and it's an ideal comparison. So here in Vermont, we basically provide funding to the Vermont Food Bank. We created a partnership with them about 5 or 6 years ago. And so we will give them funding. They will buy pet food. They will put it into their magical computer system that they have for the 120 or so food shelves that they have across the state. And when they go in, when the food shelves go in and they want to order their macaroni or their soup or whatever, they also can order pet food to be delivered through the Vermont Food Bank system. And so that is how we get the food distributed all around the state. Massachusetts is different. We use a group of about 30 plus volunteers to distribute food all around Massachusetts. We don't have a centralized hub organization, so it's a little bit of a different model there.
So let's talk about the mechanics. How exactly does that occur? How do you know that someone needs your services? And then I'll ask you after that, how do people out there know that your services are available?
So yeah.
2 questions. You can take them in any order.
So we'll use case in point here with the Mad River Community Food Shelf. They would, any individual who's interested in getting pet food would just go to the food shelf, and there's pet food there that they can get on the same day that they're getting food, their regular food for their family. So we don't know immediately the individual who needs assistance. However, I will say during the holidays, I was probably getting 1 call a day from individuals who were needing more support than what their local food shelf could give them. And so they were reaching out to us. And so we do work on a case-by-case basis with some individuals. There's a family up in Newport, Vermont, veteran, that they've needed assistance and have reached out. And we really don't want to turn any family away. So we will help support in whatever way we can. But in general, an individual gets their help from the Vermont Food Bank food shelf, and we provide that food into that system.
I see. So I wasn't unaware of that. So that's the source. That's the transit point.
Yep.
From what you purchase. You deposit it there, and then people go there. And at the same time that they might be picking up food for themselves, they can pick up food for their pets. So you have there's a system already in place that you sort of tied yourself into.
That's right. It's
That
great.
was
It's
a
beautiful.
real. That sounds unique. That sounds. I'm not going to say it's easy, but there was a ready-made format.
And we're the only situation in the country like this. We have been looked at across the country nationally as being, in Vermont, this is like a phenomenal model.
What's the typical applicant for food for their dog or cat? What is their situation? What gave rise to their need for some assistance? If there is a typical
It's
profile.
it is hard to tell because it's a variety of different situations. I can just share with you what I know of the people that I've spoken to on the phone. So around Christmas time, there was a woman with 2 cats and a dog living out of her car with her daughter. She had lost her housing. She had like 2 to 3 months before she had new housing coming up, and she did not want to have to give up her pets, and she didn't have the money for pet food while she was trying to get the money together to be able to get into her new housing. So I get a lot of calls about people who are saying, I just need enough food for the next 2 or 3 months while I'm going through this bumpy patch, but I do have a plan for going forward. Then there are other people that will be in more of a systemic situation where it's just like the bills are bigger than the expense. I mean, the expenses and the bills are bigger than what the income is that's coming in, and those folks are more like long-term participants, and they're just really depending on the food shelf to supply what they can't afford, so they can pay the light bill instead of the groceries. So those folks, I think, need greater support of other services to try and figure out how do we balance this out so that they're not in this catch-22 situation. And that is a little bit beyond our scope, but we try to do the best that we can and try and get them, any extra support.
I'm detecting a little spot. This is where I like to ask my questions.
Go for it.
But suppose somebody is able to care for themselves. They're borderline. They can manage their bills, including their food bills, but paying for their 2 or 3 dogs and their food becomes a problem. They wouldn't be going to the food shelf. What option do they have?
There's no reason why they can't go to the food shelf for their pet food.
Solely for their pet food, so that's available. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's a tied arrangement here.
As far as I know, I mean, each food shelf may have their own individual protocols and checks and balances and systems. So you should check with your local food shelf and find out what their rules are. I personally, throughout all the animal welfare programs that I've worked with, I am not a fan of income verification or, share with me what services you need and that kind of thing. I believe in a world where we're fair and we're honest, and in times of need, we're here to support you, and then in times of excess, you'll give back. That's my Stacy LeBaron's thought on all of this. So, but do check with your own individual organization. I would assume food shelves would have their own guidelines.
So whether or not you're in a position where you need some assistance by way of human food, there's an avenue available to simply access some food for your animals, if that's the part that is a strain on your budget.
And I would highly advocate for taking advantage of this opportunity, because my understanding is that a third of our population, if your pet ran into an emergency veterinary bill, which averages about $400, a third of us pet owners wouldn't be able to afford that cost. And a lot of people don't save for that emergency situation. And I would say if you have an opportunity to take advantage of some of these food benefits, then put aside a little jar, and the money you would have spent on the food, put it as an emergency fund for your pet. Because I also run into many, many, many calls where there's an emergency, your beloved pet has swallowed something or has, been injured in some way, and they have no way of accessing those funds. And that is a real challenge, finding money to be able to support those situations. And then you're faced with what's called economic euthanasia, and that is something that's impacting the whole veterinary community in these times, as well as you don't want to have to euthanize your pet just because you don't have the money.
Yeah, that gets exactly to my point. When you're up against the wall, there's still access through this organization.
Right.
How is your organization funded?
So we have quite a few, I say quite a few, we have several foundations that are very supportive of our cause and our mission, and they really want to give to smaller organizations, but they don't want to give like $500 out here, $500 there. So in essence, this Vermont Food Bank partnership that we have is so wonderful because it's able to get these funds distributed out to about 120 different locations. It's not the funds, it's the food, but it's sort of on that same purpose. So we have foundations, we have individuals. We also have the Pet Parade, which is coming up on July 4th at Sugarbush, 2 p.m. So don't wear yourself out at the regular parade down in downtown Warren. Save your energy and go up to the Pet Parade. And you've got, what, 5, 6 dogs? You can get them all dressed up. We're gonna
I don't have 5 or 6.
Oh, 5 or 6 dogs.
I'm on number 6.
Oh,
I
you're
have one.
on number.
Yeah.
You're one at a time guy.
I take them one at a time. That's what, yeah, one at a time.
So, well, that's good. You got one. You can dress up your dog and come on up to Sugarbush at 2 o'clock on July 4th, and we're gonna have our pet parade, and it'll be a lot of fun up there.
Let's have that again. July 4th. What time?
Yep, 2 p.m. up at Sugarbush. It's going to be our pet parade, and we're going to
Okay.
have we have a go-go pet photo contest. So if people can't attend, they're from farther away, they can submit the photo of their pet all dressed up if they want, and then we'll have prizes and a contest there for people who show up live. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time, fun summer afternoon with your pets.
Now, I'm not sure I heard, maybe I missed it, but
Okay.
you do seek donations from the public as well.
We do.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I learned about this organization.
Yeah, you've got the letter
Something
right there,
showed
yeah.
up in the mail.
Yeah,
Here's the letter
yeah,
right here. I've been
yeah.
holding this since December 27th,
Right.
which I think is when we first tried to
Put
get
this
this
all
going.
together.
Yes.
Yeah. No, individual donations are definitely warmly received, and we love them. We do have a holiday appeal. We send out a holiday card. We try not to bother people too much, so we really only ask for funds once a year through that holiday card appeal. And we are going to have an auction coming up in September too. So we're
Where's
looking
that
for
gonna be?
items. It's going to be virtual, an online auction. But if folks have any items that they want to contribute or gift certificates or anything like that, they can just get in touch with me at pawsitivepantry.org.
Now, tell me again how long you've been here in the Valley.
I've lived here for 10 years.
The organization, though?
The organization's been here since 2009.
So more than 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was run by someone else before you.
Yep, run for many years by Jen Bennett, our vice president.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are, what is your title in this organization? Are you the
I am
CEO? Or?
I'm the president, and we're all volunteer. No
And
paid.
you are a nonprofit.
And we're a nonprofit, 501c3 organization, and we're very small, grassroots. No, very little percentage. It's like I just calculated it out today, about 2% for fundraising. So we will buy doggy banners and other swag to give at outreach events. So it's about 2% of our annual revenue
2%.
towards that. And then it's 0.5% to pay our accountant to do our taxes. And of our general, we pulled in about $130,000 last year off of our $990, which is due.
Is that a good sum for your organization?
So it's much larger than we've had in the past, but we certainly can grow based on the demand. I mean, Massachusetts is a big state, and Vermont is a big state, and the need is tremendous. As I was saying, the amount of money that we gave last quarter to the Vermont Food Bank to keep the pet food shelves filled was 3 times the normal rate of what we would do in a normal quarter. So we ended up giving them $45,000 we bought $45,000 worth of food.
You did mention this, but I still am a little fuzzy. What's the Massachusetts connection?
So when COVID hit, I've been involved in animal welfare for 30 years. I ran an organization in Massachusetts, the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society, for 16 years.
That was a cat organization, principally, wasn't it? I admit, I did a little research before coming in here. It usually does help with the questions. And I saw a lengthy history involved with cats. And now it's cats and dogs. I don't know if there's other pets included in that. So tell me about how this started up for you. I guess we're going to be talking about cats.
Yeah, so I got very involved in the cat world and animal welfare world back in 1994 is when I started in the whole animal welfare space. But I'll talk first about how Pawsitive Pantry got involved with Massachusetts. I was running a group down in Chelsea, Massachusetts. And for folks that aren't familiar with where Chelsea is, it's a town that's north of Boston, very transient, lots of people who are really poverty stricken.
Gone through a great reformation in the last 20 years, 30 years or so.
It's changing, and it's still changing. And there's like a Silver Line that's now moved up there, and they've been taking down some buildings and building up other buildings. But they really had a cat situation going on there, and so I was asked to go in and do really a targeted
cat situation.
Meaning
what does that mean?
Cat overpopulation. There's a lot of people moving in and out of the community, and the cats are being left behind. And so I was actually involved with talking with the Board of Health about coming in and helping and do that. So I was involved with Chelsea for about 6 years. So COVID hit, and we reached out to a local Episcopal church because they were feeding like 90 families, and then it went to 600 families. It grew during COVID. And they really needed support with pet food. We reached out, and St. Luke's was the name of the Episcopal church. And so we decided to provide pet food for them. And I thought, oh, we'll just do this one church. That'll be fine. Well, then the church in the next town over asked, like, well, can you supply our food pantry with pet food? And then someone else heard about it. And so over time, we ended up just deciding to kind of cover the whole state. And it was the Pet Food Task Force, but it wasn't a 501c3, a nonprofit. So we merged to fall under the 501c3 of Pawsitive Pantry. It just seemed like it was, sort of a match made in heaven.
So when you started this, and I guess this is a question that would be aimed at your beginnings in the cat world,
sure.
and now your transition, as I understand, to both cat and dogs in a different locale up here.
Yep.
There was nothing of this sort in operation when you first started up? In other words, there was a genuine need that was not being addressed in any manner?
That is correct, yes. So when Jen started Pawsitive Pantry, there was a desperate need for this service in the Valley. And then it became apparent this need was necessary everywhere. When I was also running the organization in Massachusetts, the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society, I started a lot of different programs, and the one program that I regretted that I didn't start was a strategic pet food pantry system in the community. And luckily, there now is one that's at the Council on Aging in a town, Salisbury there. So there has been that situation set up, but Pawsitive Pantry is the organization that's providing the food to the seniors in that community who need access to, and they will go through $200 or $300 worth of food in a week there easily for cats and for dogs.
You said something a little earlier. You were talking about overhead costs. I know that. Yep. I mean, I'm not. Lots of people give to charitable organizations, and one of the things I've taken upon myself is to do some research about what the overhead is. How much of this goes? What are the administrative costs? And there are websites that you can go to, Charity Navigator,
Yep.
and a bunch of things you can go to. And hopefully you can rely on them. I feel comfortable with them. And they tell you how much they have in the bank and how many donors they have and what the overhead is and what percentage goes toward costs and other expenses. So at 3%, my experience is that's really quite low.
Oh, it's extremely low. And we have a desire to keep it that way. We want to really ensure that the dollars that are being donated into Pawsitive Pantry are getting transferred directly out into the community without cost. And, so it's just, that's critically important to us to ensure that we're really a grassroots, light on the top, a light management. So the situation with the Vermont Food Bank, it's very light. We just are providing the funding. I say just, there's a lot of fundraising that goes into it, but it's not like volunteers are driving all around the state to distribute food. We're using existing systems. We want to be really smart and strategic in how we're approaching getting this food distributed out. So if there's like a Meals on Wheels in Massachusetts or Meals on Wheels in Vermont, if they're bringing food to the houses anyway, why would I want to bring food there for their pets?
Sure.
The Meals on Wheels folks should bring the food, or whoever is making that contact with that household, rather than creating a whole brand new system doesn't make sense to me.
Now, you've mentioned both Vermont and Massachusetts. And of course, just in New England, there's 4 other states. Are there any plans somewhere hidden on the back on a unavailable shelf somewhere to expand into these other states?
It's possible, but at this point in time, we want to make sure we're able to supply the need of our current target area. And so I think we would just have to significantly expand our donations to be able to reach that far.
And financially, your organization, would you say, is healthy?
Our organization is healthy. The way that our organization, though, does work is we're not going to sit on thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of endowment money. And if you're looking at tax returns of organizations, you're going to see what their balance sheet says. And many organizations have a lot of money on their balance sheet, and then they have the organization live off the income from those revenues. We are not structured as that type of an organization. We are structured in a way that pretty much on an as-needed basis, what comes in will go out. At this point in time, the demand is so huge that really what comes in is going out and a little bit more. We had a couple of years where we were saving money. And so when everything shut down and those systems just closed down, we weren't distributing as much food back during COVID. So we were saving money for a couple of years. But now we're spending more money because families are out, families have challenges. Lots of people adopted pets during the COVID period, and so now we are trying to support them so that they will stay in the homes, because the shelters are overwhelmed with especially large dogs right now. So large dogs, really working hard to try and keep those in the homes.
Are there any specific plans on the near horizon that will alter, say, either the extent or the nature of your program?
If anything, you mean in terms of changing how the program will change? Well, I mean, we're always looking for collaborative distribution partners, and obviously with funding. I mean, if was it Jeff Bezos's wife, Mackenzie Scott, she gives away millions of dollars randomly to nonprofit organizations that are doing a good job. So if Mackenzie, if you're listening, she could.
This is the time.
I know. This is the time. We are a good group, and we would make that money.
Did you
we
hear
would
that?
Spend that well. Exactly. So if $1 million arrived, we could certainly figure out a way to expand, like to cover all of New England, with the premise still that we want to be wise with our funds, and we want to make sure that it's going where it needs to go, and it's not just sitting on a balance sheet somewhere. If we had a strategic partnership with an organization in Massachusetts, one of the large food banks in Massachusetts, like we do with the Vermont Food Bank, that would change how we operate also. So we're always looking to see what we can do to just be smart about what we're doing with our resources and how we can reach out. There are some food banks in Massachusetts, I have to say, that will not allow pet food in the food shelf. And so what we even do now is we have volunteers who will do pop-up pet food pantries in the parking lot. The food shelf will give permission. They drive to the church or to the organization or whatever, and they'll open up the back of a car, with pet food. So when people come out of the human food pantry, then they can get access to pet food on the way out.
Package. What's the rationale for that, I wonder?
They claim, in many cases, they're claiming space. In other cases, they think it's too heavy. Volunteers don't want to carry it. And I mean, we do 1 pound bags, we do 3.5 pound bags, but we do also have some larger bags that do travel around. But we try to allow people to choose what it is that they can accept in that organization.
A lot of information. Boy, you're at the ready for every single question. Is there anything that you'd like to just offer on your own that I haven't touched upon that is important to this operation and to you?
Well, I mean, Pawsitive Pantry it's a wonderful organization. I'm just really happy with everything that's been going on with it. My other life, I am still very primarily focused on cats. I am all about turning your passion for cats into action. So if there are folks out there in the Mad River Valley or who sees the show, if you are a cat-focused person, feel free to reach out to me from that venue at my Community Cats podcast. So I'm still very, very involved in that, as well as involved with animal welfare in general with the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
You know, I'm on the Vermont Humane Federation board, so I'm connected with the other shelters. There's a spay-neuter clinic that is in the Montpelier area. Really just want to ensure that all of our animals, cats and dogs, really have the support that they need to be able to live, thrive, and be loved by their family.
I think there's deep emotions that occur between owners and their animals, and not even in that humans and other animals. And I think I've seen real strong connections here, and of course myself and my wife, we do have that as well.
Wonderful.
I got it from my mother. She was over the top when it came to animals.
Aww.
She really was.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, all right. If people want to get in touch with you, say they happen to see this broadcast, and I hope you do listen here, and want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you, whether it's for information or to donate something?
Sure. So you can reach out to myself directly at Pawsitive Pantry, which is Stacy, S-T-A-C-Y, at pawsitivepantry.org, and it's P-A-W-S, pawsitivepantry.org, and check out our website. We have a beautiful website we redesigned a couple of years ago. I love it. I think it's a fantastic website. So please do check that out. And our phone number is 978-239-2090. It's a Massachusetts number. It traveled with me.
I noticed that when I called you. Yeah.
It traveled with me. It goes wherever I go. So
Let's have that number again, nice and slowly.
978-239-2090. That is our organization's phone number.
Okay.
Yep.
You seem very, very optimistic and very upbeat about this. Are things going fairly well?
Times are tough with regards to the demands out there for people needing pet food. And so I am optimistic in the fact that people are resilient, families are resilient, and as long as we can ensure that our resources are out there and present enough that folks can find us, then they'll be able to keep their pets. So I am ever the optimist. People do say that. So you're not the first person to pick up on the fact that I'm an optimist in the animal welfare space. But I do believe that there is a place in our heart for every animal out there.
And again, if people miss the phone numbers, you are online as Pawsitive Pantry, spelled P-A-W-S.
Yep, pawsitivepantry.org. Okay. We're also on Facebook. When we're on Instagram also.
So you are accessible.
We are. And you can message through. We have volunteers that manage the social media.
Hopefully you'll get some calls.
I hope so.
Get some interest
Please.
From people who haven't as yet been involved, maybe didn't know you existed.
And the pet parade. I'll be there July 4th, 2 p.m., Sugarbush.
July 4th, Sugarbush, the pet parade.
Yep, we'll be there.
Is this the first year?
Nope, we've had it. We used to do it in February, where it was really cold. We did it last year, July 4th, but we used to do it in February. But we did it last year, so I want to say this is the second year we've done it in the summertime.
Okay. Well, Stacy, I want to thank you very much. We've struggled through a lot of complications. Your travel schedule, the virus. I think my ill health came into play at one point. And here we are. We finally pulled it off.
Wonderful.
So I want to thank you very much. This has been very informative. This touches my heart, and I think it will touch the heart of a lot of people who come to know your organization, hopefully through this broadcast. So thank you once again. If there's anything else you want to add, now would be the time.
It's all great.
Covered it.
We have. Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing the show back. This is great.
Well, it's trying. I'm trying to resuscitate it a bit, and hopefully this is the start of that. So, thank you again, Stacy LeBaron at Pawsitive Pantry. I appreciate you coming down, and thank you for looking in. Again, I'm Sal Spinosa, and this is Free Range. What used to be open season, free range today. Thank you very much.